professionals who proactively help each other and are invested in each other's career growth. Pragmatic Leaders functions like a full stack global career accelerator that rests on three core pillars. Pillar one is educate. We help you upskill via our proven courses and professional industry coaches. Pillar two is engage. We run a global product community on Slack with access to online and offline meetups. Pillar three is employ. We operate a job platform and dedicated interview preparation courses to help you crack your dream job. With that note, let's begin our session. Brijesh has already joined us. Welcome and thank you, Brijesh, for joining us today. I'm sure everyone is super excited for the session. I would like you to take the session forward from here.
Yeah, sure. So this is Brijesh. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is me. I'll say hi to everyone. I have a poll. I guess people are all answering the polls. I see most of the people are from India, at least 29, 30 people, and then one from US and two from other countries. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to target my all my presentation based on my experience and some examples. And let's begin. I'm going to put this in presentation mode. Okay, so here is the content for this presentation. So I'll start with the background about my background. Then I'll share some work schedule, how I work remotely, taking care of the kids at the same time. I'll talk about building new products, one pager, prioritization. Then we'll go on some onboarding flows, like those are some key elements like for building new products. And then we will do some interactive discussions. I want to keep this whole kind of more interactive, so feel free to questions. Put your comments. I'll try to check the comments. If there are many, we'll try to answer them at the end of this discussion. I think this will kind of, my presentations will last about for 30 minutes. So let's go through them. So here's my background. I have about 10 plus years of experience in PM. I started with Samsung Music, which was in about 2013. I worked on some of the premium music features. So what we did was we launched a radio, which kind of equivalent to Pandora. There was a premium feature subscription. I worked on the premium feature subscription, offline playback. Then I joined Samsung Pay, where I did lots of growth and retention, funnel analysis, some of the personalization for content. Currently, I'm actually not working with Samsung. I'm working with a small company called Pinger, and we do text messaging and calling app, and that's those are the two apps, Sideline and TextFree. I'm also doing the kind of similar growth and acquisition. I'm also building new products in there. That's about my background. Let's go on to the next one. The next topic is about remote PM work. There's a lot of information here, but just don't kind of go on the details. I want you to mainly focus on the red, green, and the blue. The red is where all my meetings combined, clustered all my meetings into the mornings. So from 7:30 to 2:30, I discuss with engineering, I meet with the marketing and growth execs, data science team, design teams, and then the afternoon time, late afternoon time is my time with the kids. That has been moved from the late evenings into afternoon, so I can take care of them. And then back after all the dinner is done, I get back into kind of my time, like where it's individual, independent story, independent time for me to work on PRDs, communications, and all that stuff. I don't know if you guys had a chance to do the second or third poll yet. Do you know if, Piyush, have you done the second poll? I just want to understand like how many people actually do have families and work remotely and all that stuff.
I'm just starting that.
Sure, okay. So I have a poll there. I'll wait for another minute so that we can get an answer. How many people actually do work remotely, also kind of have to juggle kids at the same time. Yeah, I'm getting some messages.
I hope you all are able to see Paul on the screen.
I'm not able to see the poll.
That's because I guess screen is shared.
Oh, okay. Let me unshare that. Okay. Can we do it? Okay, I think we can see it. Okay, it seems like about 30% the people here have kids and 70% not, and I can understand that. So I'm going to start my
So I've ended this poll.
Great, thanks for running the poll. Here. So again, stop sharing. This poll screen is in the middle of my screen. Okay, good. So kids, just like any other team, also need guidance. They need structure and specifications. My team asked me the same questions as my kids asked me, what should we do now? And I have a lot of things about from kids that I apply at work. Example, like my kids like to have a dessert after dinner. And my son would say like, Daddy, can you make me a smoothie? And my response would be, dude, I'm busy here. Go mix it and make it yourself. And while I'm busy doing all my cooking and stuff, I would get a tap on my back, and my daughter in her cute voice would say, Daddy, here's a picture for you. And there would be a picture. Daddy with scruffy beard, cooking meals. Bottom would say, I love you, okay. Now, even though I have been victim of this strategies many times, I could not hold myself not to say, okay, you got me. And what would you want? And she would smugly say, just a smoothie. So most of the times I behave like my son, who just go and ask things I need, and I get a response from my colleagues or managers. I'm busy, come back later. Well, if you can engage the customers by empathizing with the customers, like it might be your colleagues or teams or managers, you might get a different outcome. Also, the right context kind of helps. So that's kind of overview, like looking at the positive side of how you can deal with family and work, and it can be all combined experience and stuff. Anyways, one thing I want to mention here is about the communication part in this work. As we are PMs, we know we all have to work with communicating over emails to our big releases, about big concerns, roadblocks, escalations. This key thing, because at some point you have to write. I spend like about hours sometimes writing an email, because the people I'm writing an email to, like the support team, the marketing team, have no clue like what problems we have been facing, and just giving them the overview, the highlights, the details they want, if that's necessary, the trends and all that stuff can take time. And we as a PM should take that time and make sure that the people across in the other departments are aware of what's going on, should be aware of any kind of concerns, and that is the important part of this communication. So feel free to chat, send questions to chat, or just kind of ask me questions as we finish. So this is one slide, and if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any kind of discussions you want to kind of go ahead with, any kind of points you want to make, just put that in the chat, or you can say it here. There is some chat about no breaks. Yeah, I know what happens about toilet and eating. What I tend to do is the question is no breaks at all between 7:30 until 2:30. So this is kind of a schedule. Sometimes I don't have meetings. This is not like all written in stone right now. I do have lots of stuff most of the times from 7:30 to 2:30. I don't have necessarily all these. They're an hour break, and even sometimes I'm in meetings. Breakfast. Sometimes there are meetings, as you know, you just have to listen to them. You don't have to be an active participant, and that's like where I kind of do my lunches and all the morning stuff. Less personal, more PM discussion, please. Okay, sure. What tools do you use to stay focused? This is my, there's a question about, this is about same during the COVID-19 2019. Yes, this is my schedule for COVID-19. After, I mean, this whole thing would be different if it was normal schedule. I would move this green part in the evening, and then the blue part will come in the later afternoon. Okay. I'll move to the next one. There, I have a slide about tools and everything. So I'll talk the next. There are questions about ad hocs, requests and stuff. I'll talk about that, and we can continue our conversation probably after this 30 minutes. So I'll start with something about one pager, and I have a poll there. I just want to know how many people actually have done a one pager or have to do one pager like on a regular basis at work. I'll just start chatting here because the poll takes like time. So just say like you have done yes or no, and I'll kind of look through this chat. I see that's 2 S's. So there's a mix of yes and no. So people are familiar with and have done that in the past. I think that's good enough for me to know. Okay, good. So when we talk about building new products, first thing you want to do when you are building new products is create an overview of the product idea pager. And I think most of us are aware of this. I don't want to go through this into details. Like again, one pager is a document that provides a business or product overview, and includes problem statement, your audience, your targeting, competitor landscape, value propositions, risk recommendations, and the audience for this is your exec staff, your investors, events, and the purpose of this to get approval to build or provide funding. Who should write this? If an entrepreneur, someone wants to pitch an idea during events, or a PM wants to get expertise on researching product, that's where you want to do a one pager. I do this for my own practice or for my own benefits, even if it's not related to work, and it helps me. Next slide, I'm going to show you the template I used. So here is like some of the tools I will talk about. I think there was a question earlier about tools for this particular template I built, the one pager. So first of all, anything you start as a PM, we know that you have to start with the problem statement. Again, the problem statement you write is from your perspective sometimes, but you're not the audience. Like you might get a problem statement from your colleagues, like from your coworkers, and there is some, I'm just need to check my chats. I don't know what's going on. Okay. This can be distracting about chat. I'm not going to check my chats until after I finish the slide. So let's do this. And then what you do for a problem statement is you try to learn that from the audience, your target audience. And that might be outside. So for that, what I did was mostly user research. SurveyMonkey, user testing might be some of the tools I have used. The second thing, after you get your problem statement and you kind of clarify that these are the needs, these are what problems users are facing, you want to do is market research. Want to find out what's the demand, like what's the audience, like is this like only like 1% of the market, or is it like 20% of the market facing that same problem? And for that, you have to like figure out what's your market, what's your audience looks like. I have done, I mean, you can just Google search. If you have a great marketing team, they might be able to find lots of information. There are lots of reports you can buy. The next thing is about competition. Sometimes you don't have that report. What you have to do is just look into competition. If they might be able to, you might be able to find information from their customer, their user base, how much revenue they are making, what product they are building. Like take some screenshots, like go through the flow and look at competition, the features they have launched, Owler, Crunchbase, LinkedIn. Also, sometimes like you don't want to build a product, you want to partner with that product, because then I have also sometimes cold called many execs to evaluate their partnership deals and stuff. The other thing you want to do is build personas and needs. I think as PMs, most of us are familiar with that. So again, based on all the research you have done, build personas and kind of plot out like which personas you can target. Then again, building value proposition, solutions, wireframes. If you have read Dan Olson's the Lean Product Playbook, the product market fit, you might be able to find all kind of those kind of solutions, models, grids, and everything to build that. Again, you have to mention about risks and trade-offs, the cost, the partnerships, some legal issues, technical limitations, and at the end, like you kind of combine that together and say, here are the options and here are the recommendations. And of course, I mean, this all sounds good on paper and theory and stuff. Actual world is a little different. Like when you go to a specific company, it's a little bit different. One thing I have realized that when you, before you present to the stakeholders, there is a final, I mean, before you, the final pitch you give, you want to get feedback on your slides or your document. And you want to refine them as much as possible before kind of presenting to the final, the stakeholders. I'm going to move on to the next one. And I'll take questions after this one, this slide. So one pager key takeaways. So what I have realized is start the one pager as a document rather than a PowerPoint slide, because that's like where you tend to like write all the details, and a PowerPoint limits you to certain key points. You might want to present it in a different way, but then start with the document, and that's like where you put all the nitty-gritty and details and everything. Also, what I've learned is that every business and company is different, and you have to be creative and adaptable to fill in the needs. A standard model and strategy that work in your previous company might not work in other companies. Every product feature brief needs its own convincing story and data depending upon the audience you're trying to convince. And what I have mostly realized is idea that most likely to be considered the ideas that are very apparent, achievable, enhancement of the existing feature with minimal impact to the product. For example, if you have an online class platform app, and right now it primarily offers your piano tutoring, but it also can be extended to math tutoring, and that can be an extension, and that is kind of like a small idea you can get by through it. But the ideas that are less likely to be considered are novel ideas that requires big updates to your core product and caters to a different audience. So kind of the same online class platform extending to offer a live conference interactions. So that might be a different need, different audience. You might need a polling or some different hardware requirements for that. Ultimately, I mean, even if you have approval from all this one pager and the documents you have written, it boils down to the execution and the solution. Things get interesting when you get into the hands dirty with design mocks, technology limitations, costs, MVP, user learnings, next iterations. And that's where sometimes you just have to try and fail faster. I'll wait for chats and take questions right now. I'm looking on the chats. If you have questions, please shoot them before we move to the next topic. How do you decide the MVP? That's the question. That's a good question. On my next slide, which is about prioritization, we'll talk about MVP, and I'll kind of point out how we release something, a small iterative piecemeal part of your product. I don't see more questions here. Okay, seems we can move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one. So once you have done the one pager, the next thing you are most likely to do, like you have a bunch of approvals, and then you want to start building the PRDs and the specs and everything. I think as PMs, like we are familiar with that, building specs and PRDs. I would not go into the details. I want to kind of like focus on prioritization. So let's say like you have features, bunch of products you have lined up, and you want to prioritize them. I have a next poll going on. I want to know how many people actually know about the KNO model or the I-score and all that stuff. So yeah. I'll wait for the results of this poll. So it seems like 50-50 almost have heard about the KNO model. I'm not going to go into details about this. Can we get, I think I'm going to stop the poll. I got the answers. About 43 people have heard about the KNO model, 43%, and the 57 have not. So again, I mean, there is this Dan Olson's book, Lean Product Playbook. If you don't want to go to the book, there is his presentation on Mind the Product, and kind of it's a good 45 presentation. It goes through all the user needs and satisfaction, how you prioritize the product market fit and all that stuff. So you can go kind of through that book and read all that stuff. Again, I mean, on the left side, you see the KNO model. You kind of plot the user needs and need fully met. If you're looking into your product roadmap, you want to line up, or your feature roadmap, you want to line up everything. You want to say, what are my performance features? Or what are my delighters? What are my must-haves? So performance features are the one like which kind of the page loading speed, your processing speed. Once you have optimized like to a few milliseconds to 100 milliseconds, the more you optimize, you're not going to get more user satisfaction out of that. The must-haves are the kind of the features.
Sorry
you see
to
the,
interrupt you, Brijesh. Your screen sharing is off.
oh, sorry. Thanks for letting me know. Screen sharing. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Let's head back again. Again, this is Kano model. And you can find that from the Lean product playbook. There are, all this are, the grid is about user satisfaction and need fully met. And there are must-haves features, there are performance features, there are delighter features. And I was just giving examples on those. The must-haves are the ones like which, if you have a content such as the music or messaging app, you want to have search in there. Like that might be a must-have.
Project manager was
Now, okay, I just was reading your chats, and then you have the delighters. And I have an example from my Milk Music Times, my Samsung Music Times, like where we just built kind of a really cool UI. Like there was a radio dial, and I'll show you that in my next screen, which is this. So this is a music app. This is my Samsung Milk Music app where I built. You see the left-hand side shows a dial. So these are all the genres, like my stations. You have pop, hip hop, rock, and you turn the dial to get to a specific song or a specific genre, or specifically album. These were all albums. So there was this cool UI, and that was a kind of a delighter for people to kind of scroll to that. You get haptic feedback by scrolling to this screen. Again, that was a delighter which people did like, and it was kind of a success. On the right-hand side, you build a value proposition grid, like you kind of position yourself like where you want to be among the competitor. Again, I'm not going to go into details. You can read the Lean product playbook. What I'm going to focus on today's presentation slides is kind of what you should do, like the key takeaways from this prioritization models. Like the next one I'm going to show you is ICE scoring. I think if we have a poll for this, let's do this as an ICE scoring polling. I just want to like know how many people actually have done this or heard of this. We have some chat, not heard of. Interesting. So not many people actually, I haven't seen a single yes. Oh, wow. Yeah, rice. Rice is kind of like ice, but you have the R, which is reach. I like the ice one. So, okay, not many people have heard of this. Or actually, only one person have did rice. Okay, great. Anyway, I would not go into details again. If you just want to like kind of like know right now, this is used for scoring. Like if you have features lined up, you want to kind of score them, and the highest score gets the high priority. So ICE means I for impact, C for confidence, E for ease. Impact is how much will this feature move the needle. It's a score. You can base that score from 1 to 10. C is the confidence. It's a certainty that the product will have the predicted impact. And the E is the ease, where it's a level of effort, like how much manpower or how much effort you need to produce this, release this product. And you kind of like combine, multiply all those scores together to get the score. It's at some point it's also what you think would be. You never like know. You just sometimes your guess. The confidence is something like where you derive from this particular chart. And there are many scores starting from 0.01 to 10. If you look into all these details, and I would not go again, you can look independently after this presentation, is most of the people, if you do surveys, which is from 1 to 3, this is where you're going to lie. If you do surveys like from user testing, from Survey Monkey, like you ask your audience, like, oh, how do you think like you would like this? You would like prefer this feature? How likely are you going to use this feature if you launch it? And that will be like from 1 to 3. Unless you build a prototype, then you can go higher. So if you build a prototype, your confidence will go higher. Like you build a prototype, you put it in your users' hands, and they start using it. You see the feedback, you see lots of user retention and all that stuff. that's where the confidence goes higher. There are some references here, productplan.com for this I scoring, and you can start looking at that. I don't want to take questions here. I'll go to the next one, the key takeaways from all these prioritization models. And that's where, after that, we can go to the questions. So again, at the end, you do have all these models and stuff there. You can research them and study them and stuff. But you want to build something like what your business and product needs are. I have done certain models in one company and certain other models in other companies, and it's all depends on the audience you're kind of targeting and catering. You can use those models for references, but then kind of try to build a greater model in collaboration and consensus with your other PMs or execs and see like what they would prefer and how they would prefer. Here is some example grid I have used for new products and features. So let's say like you have your company like building apps for kids to kind of help the kids meet their needs. So one of the feature would be like, oh, as a kid, I would need friends to play with. And maybe like you want to build something called a playdate scheduler. And playdates like where you kind of hang out, your kids hang out, schedule a particular time, and then they hang out together. And then if you look at the target audience, like it seems like in California, it might be 5 million kids. What I'm going to do is, now the question earlier was about MVP. Like, how do you build MVP? So you don't start like something like this new playdate scheduler, which not many people have, not many other competitors have built. You start something MVP, something small. You're going to start with the test market. And it might take about 2 months to build it. That's an effort, and it might like in operations and building costs and marketing campaigns and all that stuff, 0.5 to, these are just random numbers. You can just estimate them. It'll cost you about 5 million. And then since you already did a confidence might be 3. And at the end, like you kind of look at the conversion, like, so MVP when you launch that. So what you want to do is start something small. You want to build a small feature set, which is important for your audience, and then release that and try to learn from it. This might be your MVP effort 1 out of next 5 iterations. And I have read a good book, the Hacker Growth by Brian Holidays. I think that's a good book to start with about growth hacking, something I love and cherish. So that will kind of give an example how to test the market by releasing small iterative feature sets. And then the next thing, the next feature you have in mind is kids. I mean, the problem you're trying to solve is kids need some learning time, and there are some online class platform you want to build for that. And the target population for that might be 8 million kids who want to look to that. You want to do a test market. There might be a bigger market you want to do depending on the significant population. All that might boil down to 20% conversion. So at the end, like, you have to kind of build this grid on yourself and see where you agree with. You have to come with your own scoring ideas and stuff. And I've done this many times at my previous work and my new work, and it all differs based on what we agree on. I'll take my questions right now. Seems there are lots of chat stuff going on. Right, I think the Ryan Holiday Growth Hacking is a good book, yep. Yeah, type your questions, I'll look for them here. Type the book name. Let me kind of get that for you, the correct name. So the author is Ryan Holiday. It's called Growth Hacker Marketing. Yeah, somebody just did that on Amazon, but that's the book here. Yeah, Growth Hack for Marketing by Ryan Holiday. Book on market testing. I don't know what that market testing. Okay, no more questions on this slide or anything. I'm going to move forward. Okay. So there's one question. Is this model applicable on totally new ventures as well? Okay, before moving, I'm just going to answer that one question here. I don't know which model if you're talking about the I scoring or the product market fit, and if you're talking about new ventures, it might be a little different. Like if you're taking on completely different completely different business idea, and it's a big overtaking, you might want to kind of like prefer different models. Like I think this is like mostly for building products. Like if you're launching a new product, it might be useful for them. And again, consult other people, talk to other people in your companies, your execs, and see like what you come up with, what kind of models you come up with. You can refer many different models. How do I arrive at the MVP conversion retention? Good question. So I did not arrive at the, so here is a MVP conversion or the retention. What I did was, you have a MVP. Once you launch it, so this is like not something you actually come out like from your grid. It comes out after you launch the MVP, and you kind of, in the past, I have had an experience like of launching 3 products, and I can just like estimate that. So once you launch your MVP, which is 500 users, and if say, let's say like about 15% start converting and retaining those users, and that's like what you kind of estimate that 15%. Now again, you can calculate that user confidence to kind of multiply that with your effort and your impact, and you can come up with certain scores. This conversion is not coming out for that. It's just coming out from an estimate past historical values. What things do we need to when making a web app or mobile app or vice versa? I think we discussed that. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. We can discuss more. We actually are about 50 minutes, actually 40 minutes into our presentations. I only have, I think, about 2-3 slides more, and we can open it for the complete discussions and stuff. Right now, I have the next slide is about an app called Flipboard. And this is a question for you guys. I'll take the answers or the chat, but this is a flow for Flipboard. So if you are familiar with Flipboard, or if you're not, Flipboard is a news app. It provides you curated news, personalized content, and all that stuff. So here are about 4 Flipboard kind of screenshots I have taken. So this is like kind of an onboarding for Flipboard. I want you to look at this flow and tell me what you think is good and what you think needs improvements. I'll kind of walk, after all this 2 slides, I'll walk you through all the key takeaways and what needs to be improved according to my opinion and stuff. And but I wanted you to look at it and kind of start throwing ideas like, oh, this should not be here, like this should be done differently and all that stuff. So this is the first one, and I'll walk you through that. This is a Flipboard, kind of the splash screen. Then you land on this curated stuff. There are some more 2 images about what there is in this content. The next flow proceeds to account creation and then some notifications. And then one more screen, and then landing. This is a landing page. So those are the 2 kind of slides. I'll start again with the first one. I'll keep on the first for about half a minute, and then I'll move to the next slide. So start throwing questions and on the chat. I'll wait until for another minute or 2. Oh, there are quite define onboarding. Okay, onboarding is when you install the app, and then you go to this first screen before you land on the home screen. So for some, like it might be just creating an account, that might be the onboarding screens. You might have to go through some permissions, giving your email, giving your personal information. Those are the onboarding screens. That's the onboarding experience you want to go through. And most of the times, like you want to avoid lots of friction in there. Friction is something you kind of don't want to create too many screens where users have to enter a lot of information, and at the time, at some point they give up and then don't land on your screens. So there are some answers coming. I'm going to read some of them. Make it mandatory for users to pick at least 3 interests. This could lead to high drop off. Okay. I think the flow should not be sequential. I could decide to either personalize or not while onboarding. Sign up login allows to skip, which is good. Yeah, I think that is good. I'm gonna, sorry, I'm still sharing, but my screens are not clear. So let me do the next screen now. So this was first screen. We'll go to the next part. So this is the next 4. Content on 3rd and 4th slide doesn't match the preferences shared. Yep. I think it's let's to get started without registering you first. So many screens, kind of. Not asking for a personalization, instead showing different news and then automatically making a recommendation model. Onboarding screen can have a message of knowledge or something like what medium uses an image of girl with tree in. I don't know what that means. Cluster the similar topics together like entertainment, politics, etc. There should be an option to moving back. So that's a good thing. 8 screen on onboarding would lead to too many onboarding aborts, too many options to choose from in second screen, increasing cognitive load for a user, time consuming onboarding. I'd rather take the user to home screen and show top trending stories and allow user to pick interest while scrolling through the feed. Skip for now. Placement can be done with email option. Allow sign-in schemes with OAuth. Not asking for notification permission unless user have 2-3 articles would lead high. Don't allow. You guys are doing great. I'm going to go through all this again. So I think most of you got the gist. I think you are right in some terms. So an extreme example is YouTube. So if you just install YouTube, you click on installation, it directly gets you to the landing page. Like it actually also logs you in. So it, if you already have a Gmail or the Google Suite, it recognizes that, and then you already logged into the YouTube if you happen to have that. So it doesn't have account creation, it doesn't need to have account creation, the branding, the value proposition, because YouTube is so popular that like you know what you're getting into. It has a brand name and all that is not needed. Now, if you're not Google, if you're another company which is kind of a Flipboard, a news app, or some other app, you don't have that information. Google has like information about you, your personalization, what you have clicked in the past, what your interests are. Flipboard doesn't have that, all that information. That's why I think it's trying to provide you, okay, think of this as a magazine. You buy a magazine, you don't want to go through all the magazine. You first look at the table of contents. You go to a particular specific topic you're interested in, and then you go to that particular page. So for that, they have created this page like where it's like, okay, give me what your interests are, and pick 3. I think they limit it to 3. Some apps actually don't even do that. If you look for other apps, they don't have a limit. You just keep on going, choosing the topics. The next thing what I've done is they have these 2 screens. I think that's too much probably. And this is a value proposition. And this is telling the users like, what are my value propositions? Like, what do you do into, what should you do? What should be able to do into my app? And says, discover great content and collect in magazines. I don't know what that collect in magazines is. It should be like pretty much save. They're saying you can save and share your stories. That can be improved. The next thing they do is create an account. I think they have Skip for now, which is great. Not many people are actually, this is a great friction for users like who don't want to give their personal information. It's a cognitive load for signing in, username, password, and all that stuff. And again, this one other screen is about notifications. Most of the apps these days have notification during onboarding. You want to give, they ask you for the permissions. This allows, like, let's say like you have landed, you have onboarded onto the app, but then later on, like you kind of forget to use the app. This is a way, the notifications, the push notifications is a way like to kind of get you back into your app again. And then I think this might be redundant. Count me in this 3rd screen, and then you land into this Flipboard. I think some of the chat questions are, yes, we should let people directly onboard on the app, the landing screen, which is what I'm suggesting is, I think you just have to, if you are onboarding, you just have to user test everything. User test all the screens, user test the text, the value proposition, and see like what's best for you. I have done that in my past company. I'm doing that in my current company. Just small screen changes, small image changes can even change a lot of people who get through your app, and then the conversions and stuff. I think we have about 10 minutes or 11 minutes to go on to questions. I don't have many other things to discuss. This we already discussed, and I'll just take questions for now, and we'll just read through questions, or you can actually ask me. I don't want to read through all the chats. If you have questions, I'll open it for all the questions we have.
Hybrid, is it possible to please attach the PPT in the chat, because I missed some part of the session before. So can you please share the PPT if possible?
Sure, I'll do that. Let me get a clean copy. What you want to do is send me an email, because the copy I have has a lot of other things. I'm going to share my to you guys. Shoot me an email and I'll do that offline. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my email ID, and you can just shoot me an email. So I'll go to the questions.
Hey, Brijesh, Rahul here.
Yes.
Yeah, Brijesh, so as we talk about building a new product, so I just wanted to understand, so say I want to launch a product in a market where there are already competitors available, and these competitors have acquired across 70 to 80% of the market. What should be the strategy or the plan to go to such kind of market and launch a product?
Yeah, I think it's not something different than you or me now. It's about differentiators. And if you look into the Kano model we just discussed, so here, and I'll give an example like what we did in my Samsung Music. So again, this is something you want to look at. If you can see my screen, this chat window I need to put on the side. So you look at my screen right now, there's a value proposition grid, and you have all this, and this is just some of the examples like performance based and delighter based, and where you want to place against your competition. Like you want to have a delighter. One of the examples is Samsung Music. When we launched, Pandora was like already like in 40 million user base. Apple Music was within 20 million. Spotify was already there. We launched into a heavy competitive market. The delighter, we used a delighter strategy. So we didn't want to like actually start using our own ingestion system. Like ingestion is like where you kind of build like your own platform for sourcing the music. Like you work with the labels and the music industries and all that stuff. We did that in the past. We kind of failed. What we did was we started something like, let's just focus on one thing, which is a delighter. And that's where like the screen, which I showed the next. So this is like where what we built. We said, we're gonna just focus on UI. And that's just a differentiator, because what we sourced from a company called Slacker, and they had their own music. They actually had their own label. They had their own website, their apps and stuff. But all we did was, like we said, we're gonna do a skin, a UI on top of that. And that's where we focused on. So it was already like probably like lots of 80%, as you said, market was taken, and we focused on one thing. And one thing we did good was this particular UI, and people started loving this UI. People started scrolling, using it, and that's what we focused on.
Yeah. Cool. That really answers my question. Thank you, Brijesh.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Vijay.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is, to what extent should you, focus on getting the monetization right before building a new product?
Monetization. What do you mean by monetization right?
So basically, like ensuring like the product we've been making enough money. Let's say breaking even. Or making money, making revenue, like in maybe at least, maybe a couple of years or 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, whatever it is.
Yeah, you don't want to go like 3 years down the line. I think you want to start something small. So, and I can give an example. So you are saying like, it's the willingness to pay. We call this willingness to pay, which is WTP. And that comes like from early on, like when you do your MVP. So let's say like you're building a new product. You don't want to like build the product and kind of put all your price options and your strategies up front and say like, okay, this is going to cost you $10, like, or this particular one is going to cost you $20, and then just leave it out there and then expect people to just kind of buy and see where it goes. You're going to start something small first, and this is like how we're actually doing it. My current work is like you start small and start with MVP. First of all, you want to kind of just get a feedback. You just release that beta product. You just release that MVP out in the market for 500. So let me go to this grid I have here. So this grid here. So this is about MVP. You start with something, a small feature set, and say like, let's see like how this feature set does, like, and then start interviewing people. Once you release this to the beta people, the beta user base, which might be 500, it might be even lower, like it might be even 100 people you want to target, and just start getting like, okay, take their interviews, ask these users like, okay, if you're using this particular features, are you going to pay like $10 for this? Are you going to pay $20 for this? And most of the people will kind of pay $10, like I don't pay $5, and that's what I've been finding out. And then, okay, by the way, then what about if you introduce certain more features, like will we pay $10? Like, and some people might say like, oh, I'm going to pay $20 for this. This is worth for me. This is convenient, easy for me to use. And then that's where like it takes about a year, maybe like sometimes like 7-8 months before you actually build your pricing model. And that starts with the willingness to pay. And the willingness to pay is, you kind of base that on interviews from surveys and what user like to use. and then you kind of forecast that, like, okay, now I have this feature set, I'm going to release that, and people actually have been using. If I introduce that paywall, people will start paying that, and then you'll see, because sometimes people say something different and they do something different. So you'll find something different there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yep. Thanks a lot.
Hi, Brijesh. Shubham this side.
Hi, Shubham.
Yeah, Brijesh, I have been giving product interviews for the product roles, and one question I face a lot of difficulties making a new market launching strategy. For example, how would you make the launching strategy for launching Uber in a tier 2 city? So how can we answer these type of questions, and how can we solve these type of problems uh, in real world? It's like how we can solve these type of questions in interview as well as solve these type of questions, these type of problems in our company.
Um,
Launching strategy
yeah,
for
so
a new product in a
yeah,
new market.
yeah. So if you're doing launching, that kind of like you might have to read something on read that book. It's the book I mentioned. That's the growth hacking hacker marketing by Ryan Holiday's. Like it's kind of like about growth. So I mean, what's the purpose of launching in a market? You want to kind of I think you have to understand that. Like first thing, like you want to ask the user is like, you're launching in the market. What is the, again, for interviews and all that stuff, there's a lot of material available. Like if you want to kind of do that. There's one thing you do for interviews differently. There's one thing you do like when actually work practically, and it's a little different. If you want to like know lots about launches, like, I mean, you're gonna ask like, okay, what are you launching? Like, I mean, are you launching to a test market? Are you launching internationally? Are you talking to a local market? What feature set, like, is this MVP? I think those are the questions you want to ask. I can't answer your question like with a specific standard answer, but I think those are the questions you want to ask and get answered are those questions, which is the problems. What problems is this particular product going to solve? And is there a particular need, or is there a particular persona, is a particular target audience? I think those are the questions you want to get answered. Again, all that launching and stuff is also growth hacking, and launching onboarding is one part of that. What kind of, I mean, what kind of campaigns you want to use for launching? Do you want to do SEO or a bunch of like blog posting and news and all that stuff? That comes into my mind right now. I'm not answering your question, but I think that's something you just have to ask the question to your interviewer, like all those questions, and get those clear before you can answer them. Does that make sense?
Yes. So we can take one last question and then we can wind up the session.
Sure.
Okay. Seems like we don't have any other question. So with that, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay, I think Shubham said it answers. Great.
Okay.
Yes. Hey Piyush.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Brijesh, so when you basically launch any product, say, as I told you, right? So my previous question was on the fact that there are competitors available in the market and you have to compete with them. Now, can we also target the same segment? I mean, considering all the analysis and all the hacking that we have done, is that okay to go for the same target segment that the competitors are targeting, or like we need to move with a different target segment?
You can compete with them. Yes, you can go on. I mean, I have worked in the companies like where we go with the same target. You just steal the market. You just do something differently. You do it with a different value proposition and with a differentiator, and you can steal the market share. Yeah, that's totally possible.
Yeah, cool. That answers my questions. Thanks, Brijesh. Yeah.
I think thank you all for listening. If you have additional questions, I shared my email with you. So I think there are still additional questions coming. Shoot that to me on my email. I'll try to as much as possible. And thank you for coming to the session.
Thanks a lot for taking out time and conducting the session for Pragmatic Leaders, Brijesh. And I hope everyone would have some concrete takeaways from this session. And we would love to have you once again soon for another session.
Sure. Thank you all. Bye.
So guys, I'm sharing link of our Slack community in the chat section, and this session will be published on YouTube. So you can go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm sharing both the links in chat section. If you're not a part of our community, you can join us.